Welcome to the Garage Engineer. You have stumbled upon part 2 of this video series of this tiller that I thought was going to be a simple restoration, but has turned out to be have some quirks to it, challenges that we had to overcome. And the video tended to be a little longer, so I decided to split it up. So if you're at this video and haven't seen part 1, I'm going to have links to that video down below in the video description, and also I'll put a card up or something you can click on also to take you to that first video. I suggest you see that video first to get you kind of caught up where we're at, what the purpose of this tiller was, what issues we have. But this second part of the video is just as interesting as the first. Now we're coming up to our real challenges to getting this tiller running. But I'll leave you in suspense on if we actually do get it going. So see part 1 first, then come back here. There will be links in the first part video to get you back to part 2. If you're watched part 1 and now you're checking out part 2, I appreciate you coming back. Again, there's some challenges in here. So let's all take this journey and get this tiller going, or not. Let's keep it suspenseful. So let's get on with the show. It has been 2 days that the evaporust has been sitting in the tank. I had a few delays and the weekend came, so I decided to take a break. So let's see what it looks like now. Now, like I said, this stuff is somewhat inert, so it's not like it's going to eat. It's a highly acidic liquid that it'll eat the rust away if you leave it too long. And plus it was a little old, so it probably was good that it sat a little longer. But we didn't have to worry about it eating through the metal. Alright, let's get a light. I did some research too and found out some interesting things. We can go over that in a minute. Oh yeah, that cleaned it up really well. Especially on the sides there. There was a lot of rust. So if you got the time, oh yeah, that's black, just the black metal. Good deal. Let's rinse it and dry it out and we'll be good to go. Okay, so while this time that we are waiting on the tank, this is the information I found. This is actual service manual for the tiller. Ours is the 314F. These other two are just bigger, and the tines are behind it. You can tell by the picture right here. It doesn't look very good. It's like a scan of a scan, but that's our tiller right there. The issue, what I found, was that for this size tiller, it came with, let's see, let's get past all the safety issues. The great thing about this, it comes with all like the torque values and which is really neat for the different types of engines. All right, so here, this says it came with a Tecumseh, but it's only 3 horsepower. Now the next bigger machine, which is a total different setup, came with a 5 horsepower, but I don't know what type of carb it came with. Well, actually, I do know what type of carb it came with. It's just, it's not the same as what our motor is. See all these great information about gap width. So this is what the 3 horsepower is supposed to look like, and ours doesn't look like that at all because it has a bowl for the carburetor. And here's the 5 horsepower, and I think this picture is of a Pulsa carb, which is getting kind of rare. So see, this is a bowl type carb, but what we have kind of looks like a Pulsa carburetor. Kind of like this. This is what's on the 5 horsepower. Similar, but its choke is on the outside here on the 5 horsepower. This is capped off, and then on the other side, it's got a fuel pump too that pumps the fuel up with the 2 different intake tubes. Ours doesn't have it, so I wondered if this is a Pulsa for smaller engines or if it's an older version of the Pulsa. I'm not really sure, but that takes us back to our machine. So this was a 5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton, but I think it came off of something else. So this brings us to a point where this is like a Frankenstein machine. I think someone took a motor off of something else, put it on here, which I guess they kind of got it to fit. And that was the reason why the governor was zip tied to the throttle, and the throttle cable was added, because that's how this machine runs. This was never meant to have a governor on it, or at least the original tiller. So we've got a lot of figuring to do because this was missing parts, and we'll see if we can get it somewhat working back together. Before we put the tank back on and the carb, I wanted to we need to address one issue here with the drive, because if we start it up now, it's just gonna, well, the belt's gonna rip off, but it's just gonna turn the tines, and we don't want that to turn yet. So what we're gonna do, see, right now the issue is that it is the lever that puts the pressure on the belt to engage the drive is like stuck on there. So I think we need to adjust this out. It's got an adjustment slot here, but first we're going to spray it with some Coil to get it loose, because it looks a little rusty on there. And we'll see what we can do, and hopefully we can adjust it enough, because I think the drive pulley is in a different location than it was initially with the other motor, and I hope we can pull it away far enough. But we'll see here. Yeah, that's the thing when you start adding different motors to replacing power plants, you've got all kinds of issues, things not lining up. That wasn't initially the problem with the original motor, because it was engineered for one type of motor. So we got this pulley pulled out, but this is sticking out just a little too far, and you see how the drive belt is kind of zigzagged like that. It should be lined up perfectly. I don't know if there's a... That's nice, that moves there. There's not really any play on it. I hope we can get this going. And we're hitting right here, so we can't bend it out. This plate's in the way. That's what it's supposed to do. I guess we'll just have to... That's what we're going to have to work with, even though it's not lined up. And now let's hook up the wire and see how that plays in with everything else. Alright, so let's see here, what do we got? This is the wire that's all messed up. I guess it hooks like that. I don't think that's right. I think they were running it like that. I think there's a part missing. I think there's a part missing right here. And it pulls, because it's supposed to pull up. You put feed the wire through there, and it pulls up on it. But again, there's not a lot of pictures on this thing, so I can't even see the setup of what it looks like. Kind of like that, but it needs to attach to this bracket right here somehow. We'll go with that for right now. It's all the way out. Let's tighten it up, and we'll just call that for good for right now. We'll see how that works. At least it's loose, and we can get it. Oh, well, actually, this isn't loose. This isn't turning. I think this... I don't know if this is supposed to turn. Let's get it a little looser. It's got to turn, I would think. Maybe the bearing, maybe I was just doing it too tight. That's loose enough. Let's get the car put back together, and then we'll get it back on the machine and go from there, and then see kind of what we got. Yeah, I'm not really sure what. Looks like it was, this whole thing was kind of cobbled together. I mean, I'm sure it worked, but it wasn't perfect and safe. I'm not sure. We'll see. It's a good experiment. If not, I think we got a good engine, motor, or engine, I should say. So we can always keep that in our stash. There you go. Put the cap back on. So now here's the trick. We've got to get this back together at the weird angles. Let's see if we can get it started at least. It hits everything. Hit the carb, hit the muffler. Good enough to hold it in. Now this one's the tricky one. Let's see here. See if these needle nose will help us hold. Alright, just for experimentation purposes, we're outside. I'm going to go ahead and fill some fluid in here. This is just regular. Ooh, let me get some of that. Let me get some of that grease down in there. I had sprayed some WD-40 in the tank just to keep it from flash rusting. Just to get a little oil going on after we did the rinse. So there's just a little bit of it piled up there. So let's go ahead and fill this up. Give it a go. Alright, that's about halfway. That should be enough. Alright, so this is kind of the setup. We got the choke here we're going to pull, and we don't have an air cut cleaner on there. The only thing I'm worried about is here's the shut off, so we don't want that to be grounded, but we're going to need to be able to shut this thing off if it runs away, because our governor is not hooked up to anything. Our throttle isn't hooked up to anything, so it's kind of we're just going to be experimenting with it and see what we can get it started, and then we'll worry about hooking everything up. I just want to make sure this thing runs off of the carb setup that we've got right here. All right. I'm gonna close the choke. We'll see how that helps, see what that does. I'm gonna open the fuel mix, close it I guess, because we were at 2 before. Should be about 1.5. See what that does. Yep. We need to fix that wheel. Whoa. Alright. The issue is the spark plug was bad. I changed it out with a not new but used spark plug, so right there you should be able to check it as we test it here. We're getting good spark now. So let's try it out. This isn't the right one, but it fits and it's not. The diameter fits, but you also want to make sure that the height of the, here, I'll hold it like this. This height is not more than that, because then it could cause issues, but this is actually lower than that one. So that might cause issues too, but let's give it a try. It is the same thread pattern, so that's a good thing. We're just testing it out. Okay, so choke is open, or its choke is closed. I think we've got it throttle open all the way. Let's give it a try. Alright. I know I'm getting fuel in there, it's wet. Yeah, the spark plug's definitely wet, the new one that we put in there. It's getting fuel. Maybe not enough air. Let's close the choke. Let's do choke halfway. See what happens. Nope. Let's put the spark cap back on there. I hear it. Let's close the choke all the way. Alright, I was playing with the governor. We need to, actually, the governor is fine. We just need to make some adjustments here. Let's see. I'm changing the idle screw. Let's see. Let's open the throttle up. Alright, that's awesome. The motor works. We just got to play with it. This is kind of an on or off thing, speed-wise. You kind of saw the tines were moving. That was because I think our belt was too tight. See, it's jumped. How we were working on it. Probably need to loosen that up a little bit more. So it works. We just got to figure out something about that alignment. That's going to be an issue. And then this governor, I'm not really sure. I'll play with and kind of see where it needs to be and see what kind of springs we got. Or maybe we'll just permanently attach it like they had before and just run it as is. So we'll probably need to work with the idle screw to get it a little bit faster. But I like it. It sounded really healthy. Just needs to get the RPMs up. So to speed the process along, I went ahead and worked on the throttle cable. It was frozen, it was in place. It probably water got down into the sheath of it and rusted, so we're going to try to get that loose, and then we can move on to getting this thing put back together. Alright, so now that we've got the throttle cable loose, it's just rusted on there. I did do more research and I learned more. This might be the original carb because this is for a smaller engine, not for a 5 horsepower. And I did find some of the carbs that look like it. I still haven't found this exact model and how the linkages are set up and all this, so I'm still working on that. But I did learn this is similar to the 5 horsepower pulse carb. What I did learn is this screw here is to hold the throttle cable. So I think we'd put it into this position here, and then you lock it in. There's a little groove right here that the cable goes in, and then the washer holds it in down. So let's get that all set up. I might have to loosen it even more. Might just take the whole thing off. Oh, is that enough? There you go, just like that. And then you tighten it down. We'll have to do some adjustments to play with it, but for right now, we'll call that good. Since I don't know the exact layout of this, this is wrong. I know this is wrong. This will help us to get a direct drive, but it's putting too much strain right here. What's supposed to happen is this is supposed to control this right here. And then from here, there's a spring, I think, that connects to here or here, one of the two. And that's how it controls it, because you're supposed to have the governor also help control it. So it's kind of a spring system, which we don't have any of the springs. But then the other issue I have is that here's the governor arm, or the arm's down there, but this is the little piece that controls it up here. But this doesn't connect here. So I think, again, this 5 horsepower motor doesn't go with this style of a carb, because this doesn't even fit, because I'm getting a stop right here, but then the governor needs to be able to travel this way, but this doesn't accommodate it. So that's why I put it directly here, just to control it. I don't know, so we just control the throttle speed ourselves. That's not going to help with the governor and all that when we start getting into dirt. But I'm not sure. If someone knows the layout or pictures or diagrams of this, or an idea of how we can get this all to work. I don't have the right springs, and I know they're very sensitive, specific type of springs, so I don't even think we're going to be able to get it unless I can find some springs somewhere. We're trying to do this as low cost as possible. Alright, so to discuss the wheel issue, I did find some of these wheels in the stash. They're not as good as outdoor lawn wheels, but they'll do, at least get it off this block of wood. I'm not sure about the internal diameter of the axle. Let me get a little persuasion there. That'll work. At least now we can get it off this wood. It's about an inch difference. We'll fix the other wheel later. But right now, at least we can work on it and not worry about it falling off the block of wood. So besides this, we'll adjust this in a minute. The other issue that keeps throwing the belt is this belt. The 5 horsepower motor is sitting, I'd say, what is that, about 1/4 inch forward of where it needs to be. I think we're alright with the drive pulley down there. It's somewhat in line, but here, it's like I said, it's a good 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch off, and it's throwing the belt. So I'm wondering, if we put this bracket on the outside, is that going to give us enough clearance to so it doesn't have this weird bend in it and stop throwing the belt. So let's move it and give it a try. So we'll just flip everything the other way. This is a bushing that you put so it doesn't pinch against the metal and get tight. So I wonder, yeah, we'll just do it this way. And I just need to get the bolt in there started. Too tight. Still got to be a little bit loose there. There you go. The only issue now is that you got to keep it, the pulley can't release all the way down. It's hitting the frame. Well, here, that probably was too much, because now this is in line, but it's off on the drive pulley. So I don't think that's the right answer. And I don't know if we can bend it either. Maybe we can put a few washers in there to extend it out. So I got the washers as spacers right there. So push the pulley over that way. It's a little bit better. You can kind of see. I'm kind of flopping around too. Let's tighten that up. But it's still kind of off kilter, but maybe that's enough to split the difference between the drive pulley and now that will keep it all in line. Plus this belt I think is a little bit worn, so it's loose, and that's why it keeps jumping off. Maybe we need to put like a belt guard there so it doesn't pull off the pulley, but for now that will work. So sometimes on a project they don't always go perfectly, and especially this one, this is like a Frankenstein machine. It's not all original equipment, so everything works perfectly. It was made for each other. This has a new motor on a tiller that wasn't supposed to have that style of motor, and the problem I was having was the belt popping off. It's still that alignment wasn't perfect, and I was trying to think of ways to fix it. So usually after dinner I can come into the shop and just kind of sit and think. Without the camera on, I can think more deeply about the problem and solutions for it. And I came up with an idea after playing around with the machine, and it took me to the scrapyard to find a part that I needed. I love my scrapyard. I can find all kinds of neat stuff, and I found this piece, and it's actually on the ground. It is the belt retaining piece for a lawnmower deck, so the belt doesn't pop off the pulley, and it pretty much saved me time. I didn't have to bend any metal, except I did have to make an adjustment here. The bend on the curve was going the wrong direction for what I needed for the placement of it, so here you see I heated it up, bent it by hand, which really wasn't a problem, and then I had to cut it because it was a little too long. So here's me just after I cut it, I just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Now here's where I was going to mount the bracket. I know it looks kind of janky, but I mean really this is just a test to see if it actually worked at this point. I wasn't sure if it was going to be going to hold the belt on enough. So there you go. You see the final placement of the belt, and I'm testing it out, and it's holding pretty well, and it stopped jumping off the pulley at this point. So I knew I had something that we're going in the right direction. So then I stopped for the night, and that's where we'll pick up the next morning. So just quickly to review everything, what happened was, this is the part that I got from the scrapyard. I had to cut it because it was, well, one, I had to bend it because it was going the wrong way. It was bending outwards this way, so I had to bend it this way, and then I had to cut the piece because it was too long. I just temporarily put this spacer because it had the bend in it, but also just the bolt, just temporarily, or not temporarily, but just cobbled together. It's not perfect, but it makes everything work. And this was moving, causing the belt to jump off, so of course you use mechanics wire. If you don't have mechanics wire, you need to get some. It's very helpful, especially for situations like this where it's not critically important that you need to have it look perfect or put a screw in here or anything like that. You just need something to hold, so that works. And I was playing with it. I think everything kind of works. We'll have to see. Still, the belt's old, so it's gonna break any time. But when it breaks, that's the question. And then basically, this pulley right here, all it's working is a adjustment pulley. It's not doing what it's intentionally made for when it was when the machine was made, as being turning the tines on and off. This, we're just gonna have to control it by the throttle control. When it's in idle, I guess this has the clutch, so it stops turning, so it'll stop the tines from turning. And then when it's going, the clutch engages and it will start to turn the tines. So we are ready to go. The only thing I want to check is in the gearbox here. I want to see what the gear oil looks like, and then add it, replace it, or whatever. Let's take a look at it and see what we got going on there. Alright, so this is a 7/16. Alright. Take a look inside there. Oh yeah, it's kinda green. Maybe we'll just put some in. I don't know if water got in it. It's a little green. Let's add a little bit to it, and then we'll call that good. So I don't have any gear oil, but we'll just use this SA30 non-detergent oil. I think that's what they would use back then. I'm not sure, but we're adding just a little bit. Then I think we're good to go. I don't see any grease points on here, so we're just gonna go with what we got. Let's see if this, screw this on without cross-threading it. It's a little tight. Perfect. All right, let's test her out. So this might be the wrong terrain. I mean, I was trying to get through pine straw just to get to the dirt. This might need more for just regular soil. This isn't powerful enough. This is only supposed to be a 3 horsepower tiller. But we threw the belt. And I don't think it was because of the guide or anything. I think it's just because it's off. It's not aligned. One thing I did want to note before we close up is this is the fuel air fuel mixture. It should be about 1.5 turns. I think I'm at 1 3/4 turns. 1.5 to 2 is fine. I start with 1.5. And then idle, once you get it down to where you want it, when you're the fuel and air mixture, this is your idle. Right here, you can adjust it in and out, and it will adjust how it's idling. You saw how we got the motor to idle really well, and it caused the blade to stop because of the clutch in the motor. That's specific to this one. So I think some of the motors don't have the clutch in it, and it just keeps spinning, and that's why you have to have this on-off pulley to actually engage the tines. But that held much better. I think the issue was this guide wasn't tight enough, so we tightened it up. It held the belt on really well, and it didn't pop off. And I'm really surprised what this little machine can do. I know I should have cleaned the pine straw off before we got started, but it went a good, let's say that's about 4 or 5 inches deep and getting into that red Georgia clay. So overall, I think it was pretty successful. Now we just need to, I guess, just get a new belt for it, probably is what needs to be done. And I think this would be great for gardening work. I know it doesn't look the prettiest, but sometimes function over fashion, right? I'm pretty stoked about our little Frankenstein tiller. We thought this was going to be an easy restoration, and we're just going to have to revive it, but that wasn't the case. We found out, one, that it's a different motor that goes onto a 3 horsepower tiller, and I think even the carb was either the original carb and they put on the 5 horsepower. I don't even still know what, I haven't seen any pictures or any documentation on the carb itself. So if you know what the carb is, leave it down in the comments below. I still want to learn about it, but it's a nice setup. Everything works, the motor's good, so if we ever need a project with a 5 horsepower motor, we've got it. Well, thanks for coming along on our adventure, and just remember the ABCs of making. Always be creating. Till next time.